Hey everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Lisa alias Fat Unicorn Cosplay, and in this tutorial I want to show you how I paint my cosplays. I will explain all techniques on this little armor piece where I painted the one side with metallic acrylic paint and oil paint and also the other side with airbrush colors and acrylic paint. So let's start the video! Woo! I made our armor piece out of EVA foam and primed it already with some layers of wood glue. First we will start with our acrylic side. So for that I will use brown, bronze, copper, gold and also black oil paint. First we will start with our base coat. In my case that would be the brown acrylic paint. Sometimes I like to apply my base coat with a sponge brush, but you can also just use a regular paintbrush. When everything is dried, it's time to add our first layer. In my case, that would be copper. So we will dab our colors to the piece to create a gradient effect. For that, we will start from the inside and paint all the way through the outside. And it's always better to work with less paint on your brush. It's also important to leave a little gap to the corners so that we still can see a bit of our base color, because that will give our armor piece his dimension later. To smooth out the edges, I like to dry brush over them or just blend them in with my fingers. When that's done, we will do the same steps again, but this time we will use a slightly brighter color than before. We will also leave a little bit of space again, but this time to the copper layer, so it have to look like that. You can add as many different layers as you want, and when you're happy with the result, it's time for some shadows with some oil paint. Just start with a tiny bit of oil paint on the edges and blend it in. Add more if necessary until you're happy with the result. And then the shadows are already done. Only the gold part is missing now. For that, I have to cover up some areas first. Now I will add some gold to a sponge and carefully dab it on my piece. It's important to apply the color evenly to the sponge to get the cleanest result. After I add the first layer, I'd like to go over it with different gold shades. You can also go with a brighter shade over the edges to highlight them even more. And then your first side is done. Now I will show you how I paint my stuff with my beloved airbrush. Because I have a lot of blue shades, we will paint this side with blue and silver. I will again first prime my piece with a layer of acrylic paint to give my airbrush colors a solid base. To apply the base coat, you can again just use a regular brush or a sponge brush. After the base coat is dried, it's time to build up the colors. Okay, now we will add the first layer, which will be our darkest color. I like to go completely over the first acrylic layer to smooth it out a little bit. And now we will do the same steps like we did with the acrylic side and add more brighter layers to it. And don't forget to leave a little bit of space between each layer. And that's how it already looks like. Now it's time to add more shadows to it. For this step you can use black paint or a very dark shade of the color you are using. I will mix the dark blue with black. Now I will go carefully in all corners to add my shadows to it. And then the blue part is done. Now it's time to make the silver part. For that I will prime the areas with black and will also add a tiny bit of silver grey to it. Now I will add silver acrylic paint to it. For that I will again dab the paint to the piece and also dry brush it. You can also add more highlights with a brighter silver or white. And that's already all the magic behind that. Like you saw, this technique is super easy to use, and it doesn't matter if you have a brush or an airbrush, you will get a cool result anyway. And if you want to protect your paint job, don't forget to add a clear coat. And that's it! Wasn't even that hard, right? So I hope this video was helpful, and if you still have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments below. If you like the video, you can like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you next time as well. Bye!